Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Education Support Forum. Today, we are talking Salesforce, and I am with the expert, Mr. Tshediso Khuzwayo. How are you doing, Tshediso?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Thank you very
I
much.
wouldn't say I'm much of an expert, but thanks for the compliment.
You're the only Salesforce guy I know who's actually in the thick of things. I mean, other people claim, but you are on the ground doing this stuff, you know?
Oh, Jesus. I'm truly humbled.
Nice. Okay, so tell me what are you doing in the Salesforce space in your organization?
Thanks for asking. Edzai, thank you very much for having me on your show. It is a real privilege to be given the platform to share some of my experiences with the Salesforce journey.
Mm-hmm.
And in short, what we're doing in our organization is we are introducing a digital platform that is able to translate our group strategy into action.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, the purpose of what we are trying to do as a group is to improve people's lives to make their financial freedom possible. And in doing so,
Mm-hmm.
there's an aspect of technology, but at the same time, there's an aspect of humanity.
Wow.
And it comes down to the augmentation of the two worlds that Salesforce is able to deliver on
Wow.
us being able to then deliver on our strategy.
Wow. You mentioned
So,
something quite profound because I mean I was speaking to another expert a few weeks ago, and
yeah,
they mentioned that when some of these platforms are implemented, it's not about the technology alone. It's about
yeah,
it's about the people. It's about managing their expectations. Some of them are
yeah,
anxious that
yeah,
they will become
yeah,
irrelevant. How are you managing with that kind of the
yeah,
human
yeah,
element?
yeah. I think we made it clear to our team internally that the defining moment really and the starting point should be about what is the business requirement and what is it that you're trying to do for your clients.
Yeah.
And we really need to be technology agnostic and not be too technology focused because there's dozens of technologies out there
Mm-hmm.
that are able to do exactly what we want them to deliver.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's not the technology that's going to differentiate you,
Yeah.
but it's going to be the humanity.
Wow.
And what is it that you deliver to the table that differentiates you from your competitor?
Is it?
And your competitors are also using the same technology, but how you use them
Yeah.
is a differentiating factor. And it
Wow.
comes down to that human piece, it comes down to the culture, it comes down to the way in which you use the technology, it
Yeah.
comes down to your understanding, and in actually then putting that technology into action,
Yeah.
it comes down to how much time you have actually spent in the change management and the training,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of technology that companies have out there. In fact, some companies in South Africa have
Mm-hmm.
the best technology in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but if the users are not trained and there's no element of change management aspect,
Yeah.
then the technology is useless. You may
Wow.
as well continue using pen and paper.
Wow. So tell me, I mean, being based in Africa, some experts, academics, and all that have argued that Africa has been relegated to being end users of technology instead of being originators and inventors of technology. What's your take on that, and what can we do to be relevant in this digital age?
I couldn't disagree with you more. So I would agree that there's a lot of assumptions that are made
Mm-hmm.
by the global narrative that Africa is behind.
Mm-hmm.
And to a large extent, it is. We don't quite have the infrastructure that
Yeah.
the rest of the world has. And as a result of certain historical events
Yeah.
with colonization and apartheid that took place over the last 50 years,
Mm.
we have missed some of the revolutions
Yeah.
that are often talked about, or the industrializations, rather, should I say.
Yeah.
But I believe that Africa is in a very unique and privileged position in that it has actually leapfrogged the technology solutions that, that have been offered over the last 5 to 10 years, especially in financial services. So if you look at the likes of payments and a lot of the fintech solutions that are out there, when you actually start traveling the world is when you start to appreciate how far ahead South Africa and the rest of Africa actually are. When you can't do things like e-wallet overseas. The whole concept of tapping is still very new.
Wow.
The US, I was in the US a few weeks ago, and they still rely on checkbooks.
Yes, check.
I mean, it's bizarre how ancient a lot of their processes are. They still rely on the post office as well.
Wow.
It's a very prominent part of their daily communication. So Africa, to a large extent, has actually leapfrogged that.
Yeah.
And it's a leapfrog that's driven out of necessity, actually.
Yeah.
And so that's why Africa is in quite a privileged position. And also, if you look at the population construct of Africa, we've got a lot of young people. We are very fast growing in terms of our mobile penetration, and a lot of new technologies that are actually coming out of Africa are global leading.
Yeah, but then you find that, I mean, we might be leading in terms of payments, and we are at par with the other continents and stuff like that. But then our politicians are doing enough to make sure that we scale up and actually influence the flow of the digital revolution. I mean, through allocation of funds or just supporting these kind of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think there are politicians in various parts of the regions of Africa that are in full support of the digital revolution, and they are starting to get more understanding as to what policies one should put in place to enable that transformation of the digital age into really being more cutting edge and taking it to the world. So as opposed to us being consumers, to the point that you had made earlier, to us actually being the creators of digital technology.
Wow.
So there definitely is a much needed effort that is starting to take place. And the narrative is there. The understanding is not quite as widespread as one might hope. Certainly not in our home country, because everyone keeps talking about 4IR, and there's a lot of platforms and a lot of organizations that keep talking about it, but nothing really translates into anything being concrete from those forums. But what you'll find is there's a lot of people that are actually politically agnostic, and I think that we shouldn't rely too much on government per se. And we should rather be proactive around how we come up with our own technologies and solving our own problems. Because if we expect government to do everything, then nothing is ever going to get done. So we shouldn't try and politicize problem solution that we can do ourselves.
Nice.
There's a lot of great examples out there of people that have actually been politically agnostic and come up with their own solutions.
Yeah, so that's amazing. Not having an over reliance on political players. So now I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question to say, if you had all the superpowers in the world for 1 year, what would you do to make sure that Africa thrives now and beyond? What would you do with your superpowers? What superpowers would you? I mean, as in, what would you do with those superpowers?
It's not only hypothetical, but that's quite broad. So
yes,
I'm gonna need you
go
to
for
elaborate
it.
a bit more.
No, just go for it. Whatever it is, whether it's access to electricity or whether it's anything that you think is a lever for Africa's development. Anything, whether it's ICT related or not. But yeah, what do you think is something a low-hanging fruit for Africa?
I think given Africa's history and the many challenges that it's going through, with unemployment and poverty, in fact, extreme poverty, the most common word that I affiliate with the struggles is hope.
Yeah.
And I believe that Africa needs access to hope.
Wow.
And what hope really means is if I wake up every day in the morning and I go through life, and life itself is a collection of activities and stories that I will tell and a legacy that I will leave for my children.
Yeah.
I need hope in order to do what I need to do, not only to survive, but also to succeed in whatever activity I decide to participate in.
Nice.
And in order to do that, I need hope. I need purpose.
Yeah, no,
I
definitely,
need a reason
definitely,
for me.
definitely.
And there's a collection of things that enable hope. And amongst them is financial inclusion.
Yeah.
But over and above financial inclusion, it's not just access to finance, but it's also social access and the ability to actually help people help themselves.
Nice.
So purely coming up with financial institutions and giving people handouts is actually not enough.
Yeah.
And I believe institutions such as banks are in a position where they can give access to that hope, because it's not just giving people access to finance, but giving people access to opportunities.
Yeah.
And if you look at how a bank is actually made up, a bank is a collection of individuals that interact with an entity for transaction of money.
That's it.
And pretty much the large majority of any given population has access to a bank account.
That's it. That's it.
Wow. Over and above that, banks have then an ability and are in a position where they can create an ecosystem for their clients to interact with each other.
Nice.
And also to facilitate then that social access and opportunities for their clients to have access to each other as opposed to just access to the bank. Wow. And so there's various ways in which banks and other institutions can really come up with facilitating ecosystems to enable people to have access to each other.
Nice.
Over and above access to resources.
Wow. Wow, that's so profound,
That's really the foundation to enable people to help themselves.
Nice.
And it really comes down to giving people hope and giving people a sense of purpose and a reason for being.
Nice. All right, Tshediso. Thank you very much. I know I literally ambushed you on a Saturday morning. And yeah, so for an impromptu feedback session, this was quite amazing. Thank you very much for the insights, and I hope our listeners will enjoy and learn one or two things from what you have shared with us today. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks to you. Hey.
Okay, cheers. Okay, bye.
Bye.